Few people know this, but the elderly body begins to emit mysterious, almost invisible signs, days, sometimes hours before death. These are physical, behavioral, and even neurological changes that surprise even the most experienced doctors. And the frightening, science cannot yet explain accurately why this happens. Did you know that the human body seems to warn when you are about to turn off? Yes, the body speaks, but is you paying attention? If you are over 50 or take care of someone in this age group, you need to watch this video until the end. We are not talking about common symptoms such as fever or pain. We are talking about silent, strange, and often ignored signs that occur when the body is collapsing. Signs that seem supernatural, but are real. Have you noticed an elderly man to start isolating himself suddenly? Or maybe have you noticed an empty look, sudden mental confusion, or even changes in the pace of breathing? This may not just be old age. It may be the body trying to say something. But what do you mean? Does the body warn you when you are dying? That's exactly what we're going to address. There are a number of enigmatic behaviors, strange breathing patterns, and even sensations of déjà vu or invisible presences that arise shortly before death, especially in the elderly. And no, we are not talking about popular myths or beliefs. We are talking about real changes, observed in hospitals, homes of the elderly, and even at home. These demonstrations have been documented in medical studies, reports of family and caregivers, and in clinical experiences of geriatric doctors. Some signs include Cheney-Stokes breathing, an irregular breathing that alternates between acceleration and pause, something preceding organ failure. Others, even more mysterious, involve sudden mood changes, episodes of extreme lucidity before death, and even farewell statements as if the body and mind already knew what is to come. If that looks scary, it's because it really is. But understanding these signs may be the difference between intervention and neglect, a worthy goodbye and a lone end. And that's exactly why this video was made, to alert, raise awareness, and show that the body speaks, even when the mind seems to have left. And the most impressive, these signs do not appear at once. They appear subtly, like a warning, a silent code that few can decipher. But today, here, I will show you each of them. You will find out what are the 5 weird and inexplicable signs that arise before the death of an elderly, and most importantly, what they can reveal about the state of your health, or the health of those you love. Before you continue, answer me in the comments. Have you witnessed something like this? Have you ever seen an elderly person present strange behaviors days before you died? Share with us your experience. This type of exchange can save lives, or at least prepare us for the most inevitable moment of life, death. Because what comes next will surprise you. Get ready to understand what no one has ever told you about the latest body signs before the end. If you've been through a similar situation or know someone who has experienced these strange signs before death, leave your comment below. Your report may be the key to helping other people who are going through the same moment of uncertainty. Here, each story matters. The community grows and strengthens when we exchange real experiences, especially on such a delicate theme. Understanding these mysterious signs can be uncomfortable, I know, but ignoring these manifestations can be expensive. So if this content is making sense to you, it leaves the like right now. It helps the video reach more people, especially those who need it most. YouTube understands that this subject is relevant and begins to recommend it to others with the same doubts and concerns. And look, if you are interested in topics such as elderly health, silent signs of the body, aging, and palliative care, you already subscribe to the channel Agora and activate the bell. Every week it has direct content, without winding, what really matters in the final stretch of life. But almost no one has the courage to talk, because what comes now is even more revealing. Let's dive into the scariest, inexplicable, and real signs that happen in the body before death. Stay with me. You will understand why nature always tries to warn us, and why we can hear. As the elderly body ages, there is a silent and inevitable process that few have the courage to face carefully: the gradual shutdown of vital functions. But this shutdown is not like turning a light overnight. It happens in steps, in almost imperceptible cycles, as if the body itself and it was preparing to leave. The curious, and at the same time scary, is that this process does not occur only on the physical plane. The elderly body begins to emit such deep, so subtle and complex signals that even experienced doctors and experts often cannot explain accurately. These are body reactions that challenge traditional logic and medicine, as if there was a hidden natural code being activated in the last days or weeks of life. These mysterious signs that precede death usually begin with minor changes in behavior. It can be simple as a change in sleep pattern, a tiredness that seems deeper than normal, or a growing difficulty in performing activities that were once part of the routine. What many do not realize is that these signs are not only linked to the fragility of age, they reveal an internal reorganization of the body, a true silent collapse of systems that can no longer operate the same way. And we are not just talking about symptoms such as pain or difficulty breathing. In many cases, the elderly begins to present behaviors that seem even supernatural, talking to people who have died, staring at nothing, reporting to be seeing lights or listening to voices. This scares, of course, but it is more common than you think. Experts report that these sensory experiences can be part of a neurological transition, a mixture of hallucinations with lapses of consciousness, caused by chemical changes in the brain. The body enters a kind of preliminary state between life and death, and this border, though tenuous, can be perceived by those who are attentive. A particularly intriguing phenomenon is the so-called terminal light, or end vision. Many elderly, days before died, report with surprising lucidity that they are seeing deceased loved ones or are preparing for a trip. It's not just a metaphor. There is something behind this that doctors still try to understand, and science, even with all technological advances, still finds it difficult to explain how the brain, which is in bankruptcy, can create such vivid images. This manifestation can be interpreted in many ways, spiritually, emotionally, or even as a reflection of neurological collapse. What's more, one of the most common but often ignored signs is sudden isolation. The elderly can become more introspective, silent, and begin to move away from social and family interactions. This retraction is often seen as depression or tiredness, but for many caregivers and health professionals, this may be the beginning of a kind of emotional shutdown. It is as if the mind is preparing for a complete shutdown. At this point, the body already understands that the final phase has arrived, and even if there is no visible pain, the vital energy begins to fade slowly. Another impressive aspect is the change in the breathing pattern. In many cases, the person begins to breathe irregularly, alternating between long breaks and deep sighs. This breath is known as Cheney-Stokes standard and usually appears in the final stages of life. For those around, it may seem that the elderly are struggling to breathe, and in fact it is. But this struggle is no longer against a specific disease. It is the body itself trying to maintain a function that is undoing. It is a direct sign that the body is losing control of automatic processes. In parallel, metabolism slows down. The desire to eat disappears. The intestine reduces its functioning. The kidneys start working with less intensity, and the skin can start to get colder and more pale. These are signs that blood flow is being redirected only to the essential organs such as the brain and the heart. The body, almost intelligently, begins to conserve energy to try to keep the basics working. But even this effort has expiration date. When the blood no longer circulates hard enough to reach the ends, hands and feet are cold. This is one of the last observable physical signs. Emotionally, this moment can also be confused. The elderly can alternate between moments of lucidity and confusion, between silence and disconnected phrases. In some cases, sudden regrets may arise, willingness to say goodbye, or even requests for forgiveness that have never been verbalized before. This intense emotional state, often ignored, is a clear indicative that body and mind are in transition. The hormones are already falling. The nervous system can no longer respond clearly. And the heart, even though it continues to be beating, begins to work with less strength. As scary as all this seems, understanding these signs can be liberating. Knowing that the body gives alerts before death can help families prepare emotionally, pay more attention to the PE. You have details, and to offer the support that the elderly really need in this final phase. It is not about fear. It is about consciousness. It is about giving dignity to the person until the last moment, understanding that each behavior, strange as it may seem, has a reason, an origin, an explanation, even if science does not yet have all the answers. That's why this video is so important, because he reveals what many ignore, because he shows that there are patterns that repeat themselves, signs that deserve attention, and details that can make a difference between a cold farewell and a moment of genuine connection. And if you have arrived here, you are probably looking for answers. You may be going through this with a father, a mother, a grandfather, or maybe just trying to prepare for the future. And that's why I want to hear you. Have you witnessed something like this? Have you seen an old man changing the behavior days before he died? Already had the feeling that the body was trying to warn something, but no one understood the message? Write here in the comments. Share your story. It can be as simple, "It happened to my grandfather," or even a deeper account. Each comment here has the power to help other people. And as we go deeper into these mysterious signs that arise shortly before death, what impresses most is how the body seems to emit codes, as if trying to communicate before it is definitely silent. Many of these signs are considered inexplicable, even by those who have worked for decades with palliative care and geriatric medicine. They do not follow a linear logic, they do not appear the same way around the world, and yet they have something in common, a sequence that, when carefully observed, reveals that the end is close. The first sign, and perhaps one of the most intriguing, is the appearance of smells that do not exist, and it's not an exaggeration. Many people report that their parents, grandparents, or loved ones, days before died, have begun to feel strange odors, some sweets, some extremely unpleasant. This phenomenon is known as phantosmia. What is even more curious is that these smells are not perceived by anyone else in the environment. Only the elderly feels. This may indicate profound changes in the brain, usually linked to the central nervous system, and are common in advanced neurological frames. When the brain begins to lose its ability to interpret signals correctly, it can generate sensations that do not exist. It is as if the body already collapsing, to create distorted answers as a last impulse of neural activity. Many health professionals describe this moment as a silent alarm. It is not visible, it is not audible, but it is there, acting as a sign that something is about to fail. Soon after, another sign begins to draw attention. The ends of the body, especially hands and feet, begin to get cold. It doesn't matter if the environment is warm. It may be blanket, heater on, but the skin still cools, almost symbolic. This is because the body begins to divert the blood to protect vital organs such as heart and brain. It is an instinctive defense mechanism. The body, even without knowing that it is dying consciously, acts as if they are saving energy, focusing only on the essentials. Hands and feet at this point are no longer a priority, and this change does not happen subtly. It is noticeable to the touch. Family members report feeling the hands of their loved ones as if they were ice, even on hot days. This is one of the lightest evidence that the body is beginning to close to the outside world. But perhaps the most distressing sign for those who witness this process is sudden mental confusion. An elderly man who until then talked usually can, overnight, start saying meaningless things, forgetting family names, confusing places and dates. What's more, you can start to have delusions. Talk to people who have died, point to the void, ask to leave even being at home. This phase is undoubtedly one of the most exciting and delicate, because it shows that the brain is collapsing. Lack of oxygen, circulation failures, and cumulative effects of medicines and disease itself contribute to this altered state of consciousness. And it is at this moment that many families get lost. They think it is just passing confusion, tiredness, the effect of medicine. But in fact, it may be the body by delivering the last signs of presence. It is as if the mind is trying to say goodbye before erasing it for good. And along with that comes the silence, the social retraction. The elderly begins to avoid conversations, ignores visits, closes their eyes even being awake. It gets longer silent, responds with nods instead of words, or simply to interact. And that, as much as it seems just a tiredness of age, is a powerful sign. Many professionals report that, and this isolation is not just emotional but physiological. The brain begins to reduce its social interaction activity as it is consuming energy to maintain only the basics working. And curiously, many elderly people report feeling as if they are disconnecting from reality. Some say they feel wanting to leave. Others say, everything is ready. They are subtle phrases but which reveal a deep level of consciousness about their own end. And once again, it's not depression. It's a state of transition. The body is preparing the mind for total shutdown. Finally, and perhaps the most evident of the signs, is the drastic change in the respiratory standard. Cheney-Stokes's famous breath, who has witnessed never forgets. The person begins to breathe with long breaks, sometimes is up to 20 or 30 seconds without breathing, and then pulls the air deep and noisy. This pattern causes a lot of fear, especially in family members who do not understand what is happening, but it is a clear indicator that brain respiratory centers are failing. The nervous system no longer commands the body with the same accuracy, so breathing becomes disorganized. Often this breathing happens in the last 48 hours of life, although in some cases it can last longer. And while it is distressing to observe, it is a natural process. The body is delivering what remains, in one last effort to continue working. But the end at this stage is just a matter of time. It is important to remember that these signs do not follow an exact order. In some people they may all appear, in others, just a few. But what everyone has in common is the fact that, once initiated, they indicate that the body is approaching its limit. These are not common symptoms of aging. They are specific signs, precise and often ignored for lack of information. And that's why this type of content is so important. It serves to alert, inform, and above all, to humanize a process that is still treated as taboo. Death, although inevitable, may be less traumatic when we understand its signs. And believe me, understanding these signs can turn the way you deal with the end of life, whether of a loved one or even preparation for your own journey. Now tell me one thing. Have you seen any of these signs happen to someone close? Have you heard an old man saying that he saw or felt something strange days before leaving? Have you noticed this different breath or this sudden isolation? Leave your comment here. You can write, "It happened to me," or "I've witnessed it in my family." Not only does this help other people understand that they are not alone, but also increases the strength of this community. This is where we need to stop and reflect even more attention, because all that you have just seen, these 5 signs that seem strange, scary, or even supernatural, are not necessarily a death sentence. They are actually silent screams of alert, an urgent request from the body as if saying, something here is not going well and you need to look at it now. Death may not be immediate, and in many cases these signs appear long before the body is really ready to leave. This is exactly where the danger lives, and at the same time the opportunity. When we talk about the health of the elderly, especially male health over 50 or 60 years, the body starts to function as a more sensitive system. Any change, however small, may be indicating silent diseases such as heart problems, micro-VCS, neurodegenerative syndromes such as Alzheimer's or Parkinson, decomposed diabetes, renal or liver failure, among many other conditions. Many of these diseases advance without pain, without classic signs, so when the body begins to give these warnings, it is offering us a chance, one last window to act. For example, the simple fact that an elderly reports non-existent smells may seem silly, but this sensory change may be linked to a developing neurological injury. Phantosmia, as we saw, is often an early sign of the brain's temporal lobe deterioration. And did you know that this is one of the first signs also observed in patients with Alzheimer's? The same goes for Cheney-Stokes breathing. Although often associated with the end of life, it can also indicate congestive heart failure. And believe me, how many people could have their paintings treated more effectively if these symptoms were recognized in time? That moment when the elderly begins to isolate themselves, getting more silent, seems sad or disinterested. How many children, grandchildren, and caregivers don't think it's just tiredness or an age trait? And in fact, it may be the beginning of a deep depression. It can be a silent stroke that has affected an emotional area of the brain. It can even be side effect of medical combined mentors, something so simple and ordinary that passes unnoticed. And it is precisely this unintentionally neglect, this habit of normalizing the abnormal, which makes so many paintings unnecessarily get worse. The human body, even with all its complexity, tries to protect us to the end. And the way he finds for this is sending signs, sometimes confused, yes, but never for nothing. These unusual behaviors, such as delusions, speak disconnected or extremely cold hands and feet, are not coincidence. They are the direct result of failures in important body systems: circulation, oxygen, neurological command, hormonal balance. In many cases, it is not aging in itself to blame. It is a disease evolving silently, and the body is just trying to maintain balance for the time it can. Therefore, Being aware of these signs can save lives. Literally. Early recognizing these warnings allows for medical help before the picture becomes irreversible. A simple neurological examination, an electrocardiogram, a tomography, or even a reassessment of medications can completely change the direction of the outcome. What seemed end may actually be just a warning that the body is overloaded, and with the right care, everything can work better. There is no guarantee, of course, but there is hope, and hope is born of knowledge. Another important point is the importance of prevention. You can't wait for the body to start to fail to take attitudes. Men especially have the habit of avoiding queries, postponing tests, thinking that it will pass, but it won't. Time only aggravates what is already weakened, and the signs of the body should never be ignored. You who are watching me now, have you ever wondered how many of these signs you have experienced or saw in someone close? Any sudden change in behavior? That distant look? A strange speech in the middle of a conversation? Or that heavy silence? That sudden isolation that seemed just laziness or bad mood? Now imagine that all this was the body trying to ask for help. And if anyone had understood this request, perhaps the story had been different. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm telling you to wake you up. Because when we understand what is happening inside, we position ourselves better on the outside. Take care of it, anticipates, changes habits. He looks more affectionately at the small signs. And if there's something this video wants to teach you, it is that no one suddenly dies. The body always warns. Always. The question is, are you listening? And we know, right? Man's health, especially when it comes to prostate health, sexual health, neurological and cardiac health, is still a taboo. Many are still ashamed to speak, to ask, to investigate, but ignoring is a mistake that charges a high price. So the more information you have, the better. And the more you share this, the more men can avoid reaching this critical point. Many of these signs are not unique to the end of life. They are symptoms that may appear years earlier and, if treated in time, allow you to live with quality for much longer. Even let me enjoy and propose you a reflection. What if you're going through it yourself and didn't realize it? How is your sleep pattern? Have you felt more confusing than usual? Have you moved away from people, lost interest in things you once liked? Do you feel constantly tired, even without making an effort? Is any member of your body with a tingling or constant coldness feeling? It may seem exaggeration, but these are the small signs that precede the big problems. And now that you know this, you can make the most important decision, to act. And it can also help other people see what they may never realize alone. Because all this we are talking about here is not just information. It's prevention. It's consciousness. It's careful. It is giving value to life before it escapes us. And this is not only true for the elderly, but for everyone who will one day aging. And that, let's face it, include all of us. So if you've been through this with someone, or if you're realizing these signs on your body, write here in the comments. I write, I'm more attentive now, or I've seen it happen to my grandfather, or I need to take better care. This kind of interaction here is not just for the algorithm, no. It is to create a support chain, to show that you are not alone. And there are a lot of people right now, watching this video, feeling the same doubts, the same anguish, the same need to understand what is happening to the body, be yours or someone you love. If you stayed with me here, it's because this subject really touched you somehow. And I thank you for it. Now I want to invite you to be part of this community that grows every day in search of more awareness, more care, and more health with health, especially the health of man and the elderly. So if you haven't signed up yet, take advantage of this moment and now click the subscribe button under the video. This is critical so that you do not miss the next content, which will continue to show you what no one else has the courage to explain clearly. And since you stayed until the end, do the following. Comments down here the phrase, "Now I understand the signs." This will show me that you are committed to your learning and will also inspire other people to reflect with us. And of course, if this video has helped you, leave the like now. Besides motivating me to keep creating videos like this, you help YouTube show this content to more people who need this information. And before you leave, don't forget to click on the next video that is already appearing on the screen. He is the perfect continuation of what we said here and can bring answers that you didn't even know you were looking for. I hope you there.